My name is Janine R. Nagel, and I'm 30 years old. The final invoice for the caterer was sitting on the kitchen counter like a quiet little threat. In 73 days, I was supposed to become someone's wife. I wasn't nervous. That was the strange part. I was settled, calm. The kind of calm that comes when you believe the thing you built is solid enough to hold weight. I had spent the evening cross-referencing honeymoon hiking trails in Iceland, my laptop warming my knees, while Evan sat on the other end of the sofa flipping through a wedding magazine he had pretended not to care about, but secretly marked with sticky notes. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows. Inside, the apartment smelled like chamomile tea, printer paper, and the lemon candle we always burned after dinner. The silence between us felt comfortable, or I thought it did. When I glanced up, I saw tension in him. His thumb tapped a frantic rhythm against the glossy page. His jaw was tight. His eyes were not reading anything. He was rehearsing. "You're quiet tonight," I said, closing my laptop. He flinched like I had caught him stealing. "Just tired. Wedding stuff is a lot." "We're through the worst of it," I said, trying to smile. "It's just the fun details now. Unless you're having second thoughts about the chocolate fountain." He didn't smile back. He closed the magazine with a sharp slap. "Actually, Janine, we need to talk about the wedding. About us." A cold trickle slid down my spine. "Okay, talk. Is it the budget? Because we can scale back the—" "It's not the money," he interrupted. His voice was too steady. That was what scared me first. Not panic, not guilt, steadiness. He turned toward me, folding one leg beneath him. His expression was a strange blend of resolve and pity, like he had already made a decision and was sorry I was slow to understand it. "It's foundational," he said. "Foundational," I repeated. "The foundation is that we love each other," I said carefully. "That we want a life together. That seems pretty solid." "But how do we know?" he burst out, hands lifting helplessly. "How do I know?" "Know what?" "That you're the one." He said it like a phrase he had practiced, like something he had read in an article written by a man who had never kept a promise. "Janine, you're the only serious relationship I've ever had. We got together after college. What if I'm settling? What if there are women out there who are a better fit for me, and I'm choosing you because you're here, because you're safe and familiar?" The cold trickle became ice water. "Are you saying you have feelings for someone else?" "No, not specifically." He leaned forward, eyes bright with a kind of self-absorbed conviction people mistake for honesty. "It's not about one person. It's about experience, certainty. I need to experience other women, date, be with other people. Otherwise, I'll always wonder, and I can't go into marriage with that hanging over me. It wouldn't be fair to either of us." The room tilted slightly. "So you want to break up?" I asked. "No, God, Janine, you're not listening." He sounded irritated now, like I was failing a test. "Not break up. Press pause. You wait for me. I go out, have my experiences, live a little. And if after I've seen what's out there I choose you, then we'll know it's real. It'll be stronger." I stared at him. Then he softened his voice, which made it worse. "Otherwise, the wedding is off. I can't commit with uncertainty. Don't you want me to be sure? If you love me, you'll understand this is for us." I looked at the man I had planned a future with, the man whose family dinners I had survived, whose dreams I had memorized, whose ring I had saved for 4 months to buy. I needed to hear it plainly. "So let me make sure I understand," I said, my voice flat. "You are asking me, your fiancé, to put my life, heart, dignity, and wedding on hold while you date and sleep with other women to see if I'm good enough to come back to?" His face flushed. "You're twisting it. The question stands." He crossed his arms. "Yes, that's what I need." The refrigerator hummed in the silence. I looked at the ring on his hand, at the future dissolving in front of me, and nodded slowly. Okay, I said. Relief spread across his face. He thought he had won. He didn't understand that okay was not agreement. It was the sound of me leaving. I did not sleep. I lay in the guest room on a bed that still smelled faintly of cardboard boxes and spare blankets, watching the red numbers on the digital clock change 1 minute at a time. Evan was down the hall, probably sleeping better than he deserved, wrapped in the warm delusion that I had accepted his terms because I loved him enough to wait. But okay had not meant permission. It had meant I finally understood the contract he was offering. My commitment would be held in escrow while he tested the market. My dignity would sit politely on a shelf while he collected experiences with other women and then decided whether I still compared favorably. There was nothing left to discuss. By dawn, the pain had hardened into something clean enough to use. At 6:12 a.m., I got dressed in jeans and a plain sweater, the kind of clothes you wear when you are not trying to look beautiful for anyone, only functional. I packed one duffel bag first: toiletries, a week of clothes, passport, birth certificate, tax documents, the small fireproof lockbox where I kept everything that could not be replaced by apology. Then I walked into the kitchen. The final caterer invoice was still on the counter, mocking me with its elegant little header and the line item for rosemary chicken Evan had insisted everyone would love. I stared at it for maybe 3 seconds before making the first call. At 8:01, the venue office opened. I gave my name calmly. This is Janine R. Nagel. I have a wedding reservation for September 15th. I need to cancel it immediately. The coordinator, Diane, made a soft, sympathetic noise. Oh, I'm so sorry. Would you like to discuss rescheduling? No, I said. Permanent cancellation. She asked if there had been an emergency. I looked down the hallway toward the bedroom where Evan still slept behind a closed door. Death in the family, I said. It was not entirely a lie. Something had died. It just wasn't a person. One by one, I dismantled the future. Caterer, photographer, band, florist, hair and makeup, shuttle service for the out-of-town guests. Every call was polite, firm, final. I accepted every penalty without argument because money was suddenly the least expensive thing I was losing. The most expensive thing would have been staying long enough to marry a man who believed love required auditions. The ring was the last piece. I drove to the jeweler just after 10, carrying the velvet box in my coat pocket. The same older man who had helped me choose Evan's band looked up with a practiced smile that faded when he saw my face. Back so soon? He asked. I placed the box on the glass counter. I need to return this. His expression softened. Is everything all right? The engagement is off, I said. What's the return policy? He processed what he could, explaining the rest with careful kindness. When he handed me the receipt, he said, I'm sorry. You'll find the right man. I looked at the empty ring box one last time. I think I just avoided the wrong one. When I returned to the apartment, Evan was still asleep, or pretending to be. I didn't check. I packed books, my laptop, my grandmother's mixing bowl, my toolbox, the framed photo of my parents. I left behind the throw blankets, the framed engagement picture, the recipe book we bought for our future kitchen. I wanted no relics. I wanted nothing that would make my new life smell like the old one. As I carried the last box to my car, I remembered the night I proposed to him on the pier under string lights. He had cried, laughing and saying yes over and over, while the lake reflected gold around us. That memory should have broken me. Instead, it clarified everything. That night I had proposed to someone who no longer existed, Or maybe someone who had never existed at all. I left the apartment key on top of the caterer invoice. My temporary place was a furnished studio downtown, clean, neutral, and silent. I set my duffel on the floor just as my phone began vibrating. Evan. I watched it buzz until it stopped. A voicemail appeared. I poured water, sat on the stiff sofa, and played it. Janine, I just got back. Where are you? Some of your stuff is gone. Did you go to your mom's? The date was fine, okay? Weird, but fine. I need to hear your voice. Call me. There it was. The date was fine. He had started his experiment while I was canceling our wedding. I deleted the voicemail, blocked his number, and texted my parents. The wedding is off. Evan and I are done. I'm safe. Please don't ask for details tonight. I love you. Then I texted my best friend Mara. Called off the wedding. I'm okay. I just need space. She replied instantly. My couch, my car, my shovel. Whatever you need. For the first time that day, I almost smiled. Then I turned off my phone, sat in the studio's complete silence, and let the quiet become mine. The first week in the studio was defined by a silence so complete it almost had weight. It was not the passive quiet of an empty room. It was active, chosen, protective. I did not turn on the television. I kept my phone dark unless I needed it for something practical. The only sounds were the mini fridge humming in the corner, water rushing through old pipes, the scrape of a knife across toast, and sometimes my own breathing when grief rose too high and needed somewhere to go. I slept in long, heavy waves, the kind of sleep that does not refresh you so much as drag you under until your body stops fighting. I would wake disoriented, stare at the unfamiliar brick wall outside the window, and remember all over again that I was not waking up 70-something days from a wedding. I was waking up in the life after it. The strange part was that I did not miss Evan exactly. Not the man who had looked me in the eye and asked me to wait while he tested my worth against other women. I missed the man I thought he was. I missed the version who cried on the pier, who held my hand through my grandmother's surgery, who once stayed up until 3 a.m, helping me assemble a cheap bookshelf because I refused to admit the instructions made no sense. I grieved a ghost wearing his face. Sometimes the unfairness rose in my throat like acid. I had been loyal. I had planned. I had saved. I had learned his family's birthdays, remembered his mother's favorite flowers, listened to his work anxieties, adjusted my dreams around ours. I had done everything people say you do when you love someone. And my reward was being placed on a shelf like a backup option, while he went looking for proof that I was good enough. One afternoon, standing barefoot in the kitchenette while coffee burned in the pot, the question finally surfaced. Was I not enough? The moment I thought it, I knew it was the wrong question. That was his trap. He had framed my value as something that required comparison, as if love were a product review and marriage were a prize given to the best performing candidate. The issue had never been whether I was enough. The issue was that Evan had a hole inside him shaped like endless validation, and he had renamed that hunger certainty. With that realization, something inside me loosened. Not healed, not yet, but loosened. So I started moving. I found a running trail along the river. The first time, my lungs burned after 10 minutes, and my legs felt like they belonged to someone else. But I kept going. The rhythm of my shoes on pavement became a kind of prayer. One step, then another. Distance appearing because I created it. No begging, no waiting. No man deciding whether I still qualified. I reconnected with Mara, not for a dramatic crying session, but for tacos and a minor league baseball game where she spent the first inning insulting the mascot and the second pretending not to watch me too carefully. Her boyfriend Daniel came too, kind and steady, never asking for details I had not offered. At the end of the night, Mara hugged me hard and said, "You look lighter." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so I did neither. I just hugged her back. Work changed too. A project I had barely touched during wedding planning suddenly had my full attention. I poured myself into the strategy, the data, the system design. My boss noticed. "This is the sharpest I've seen you in months," she said after a presentation. I smiled politely, but inside I thought, because I finally stopped bleeding energy into someone else's uncertainty. I bought one ridiculous orchid for the studio. White petals, deep green leaves, dramatic enough to look judgmental. I learned how not to kill it. I cooked meals for one, spicy enough that Evan would have complained. I read fiction again. I let the studio become more than temporary. I let it become mine. After about a month, curiosity found me on a rainy evening. Cold, clinical curiosity, not longing. I unblocked Evan's number just to see what debris had piled up against the door. My phone vibrated once, then again. Then it nearly came alive in my hand. Dozens of missed calls, texts stacked like panic, voicemail alerts, a timeline of collapse waiting behind a wall I had built. I did not open them immediately. I placed the phone face down, watered the orchid, and finished the chapter I was reading. For the first time, his urgency no longer outranked my peace. When I finally opened Evan's text thread, it was like watching a building collapse floor by floor. The first 48 hours were confusion dressed as annoyance. "Janine, why did you block me? We need to talk like adults." Then, "The venue called my mom. They said the wedding was canceled because of a death in the family. What did you do?" Then, "This is childish. You can't just run away because we had one hard conversation." I read that one twice, not because it hurt, but because of the audacity. One hard conversation. That was what he called asking his fiancé to wait while he slept with other women, and then decided whether she still ranked high enough to marry. By week 1, the tone changed. Anger started wearing a softer shirt. "Okay, I get it. You're hurt. I'm sorry I hurt you, but you're overreacting." Then, "The experience thing isn't what you think. It's actually making me realize how good we had it." A few messages later came the real confession. "These women are awful. They're self-absorbed. They just want attention. I went on 3 dates. 3. That's all it took. I get it now. You're the one. I'm calling it off. Please answer." I stared at the screen and felt the final remnants of pity wrought into clarity. He had not discovered my worth. He had discovered that strangers did not want to mother his uncertainty for free. By week 3, desperation had taken over. I told my parents we had a fight. "They think you're being unreasonable, but I'm defending you." I almost laughed at that. Defending me from the story he wrote? "I can't sleep. I keep thinking about how you used to make tea when I was stressed. No one does that. No one knows me like you do." Then, near midnight on a Thursday, "I am ending the experiment. It's over. I choose you. I am certain now. Do you hear me? I am sure. The wedding can be back on. We can reschedule. Just say something. Janine, I'm scared." I placed the phone on the table and looked at my orchid. It had sprouted a new waxy leaf while Evan was busy discovering consequences. That little plant, dramatic and stubborn, had done more honest growing than he had. Then his brother called. Lucas was Evan's older brother, and he had always treated himself like the family referee, though somehow every ruling benefited Evan. I let the call ring 3 times before answering. "Janine, finally!" Lucas snapped. No hello, no concern, just accusation. "Do you have any idea what you're doing to him?" "I know what I'm doing for myself," I said. "He's devastated. He can't eat. He can't sleep. You're being cruel." "Is there a specific reason you called?" "The reason is you need to stop this silent treatment and act like an adult. Evan made a mistake, a human mistake. You're blowing up 5 years and a wedding over bruised pride." There was no fight, I said calmly. He issued an ultimatum. I accepted it. The wedding is off. My decision is final. Lucas scoffed. That's not what he said. He said he needed reassurance, space, perspective. You twisted it because your ego couldn't handle him being honest. The family script was perfect. Evan had softened the demand, sanding down the edges until his cruelty looked like vulnerability, and my boundary looked like punishment. I'm not discussing this with you, I said. Do not contact me again. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. No, I said. I already almost did that 73 days before the wedding. I hung up and blocked him. Evan's texts came faster after that. Broken little fragments. Did Lucas call you? Please don't listen to him. I'm sorry. I'll do anything. Then nothing. 2 full days of silence. It broke at 2:17 a.m. with a voicemail. I played it because something in me wanted to hear the ending. His voice was raw, but not sad, furious. You arrogant woman, he spat. You think you're too good for me now? You think you won some moral victory? I was trying to make us stronger, and you quit. You ran because you couldn't handle a man who needed certainty. You wanted me obedient, safe, boring. Well, guess what? I have options. I was trying to do the brave thing, and you punished me for it. He was shouting by then. You'll end up alone, Janine. You hear me? Alone. And I'll be fine. You were always the safe choice. Safe is boring. Enjoy your self-righteous little life. The voicemail ended with a hard breath and a click. In the dark of my studio, I felt no heartbreak, only finality. This was the truth underneath all his polished language. He had not wanted certainty. He had wanted permission to gamble with my devotion and still keep me as insurance. I saved the voicemail as a bookmark, the last page of that chapter. The next morning, I blocked him permanently. The gallery opening was Mara's idea. Her boyfriend, Daniel, had a ceramic piece selected for a small downtown collective show, and Mara insisted I had been romantically involved with my couch for long enough. She said it with love, and because she had spent the past months feeding me tacos, pretending not to monitor my emotional temperature, and reminding me that canceled weddings do not count as personal failure, I agreed. The hermit phase had become comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. My solitude was no longer survival. It had become a room with windows, and I was ready to open one. I wore a simple navy dress and low heels, nothing dramatic, nothing bridal, nothing that had ever been chosen with Evan's opinion in mind. The gallery was a converted warehouse with concrete floors, white walls, and the soft hum of people pretending they understood abstract art more deeply than they did. Daniel's piece sat on a plinth near the middle, a twisted porcelain vase that looked fragile from one angle and indestructible from another. Mara stood beside it, looking proud enough to fight anyone who breathed too close. You made it, she said, hugging me hard. I was promised weird crackers. And emotional growth, Daniel added, handing me a plastic cup of passable red wine. For the first hour, I was almost happy in a simple, unqualified way. I wandered through the room, reading little artist cards, listening to strangers discuss texture and intention, letting the noise settle around me without needing to belong to it. My promotion had come through 2 weeks earlier. The orchid on my windowsill had produced another leaf. My studio now had shelves, curtains, and a coffee table I assembled badly but proudly. My life was not large yet, but it was mine. Then I saw Evan. He stood near a large splattered canvas, holding a glass of white wine he was not drinking. He looked diminished. Not destroyed, not dramatically ruined, just smaller in the way people look when their performance has been taken away and they are forced to stand inside themselves. His shoulders were slightly hunched. There were faint shadows beneath his eyes. The confident certainty he wore the night he asked to experience other women had been sanded down into something tired and raw. He was with a woman I vaguely recognized from one of his friend groups. She noticed me first, leaned toward him, and whispered. Evan looked up. Our eyes met. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by hope so naked it almost embarrassed me for him. He set down his glass and started toward me before I could decide whether to move. I didn't flee. My peace was portable now. It came with me. Janine, he said softly when he reached me. Hi. Hello, Evan. He flinched at the politeness, like he had expected my voice to still carry some private warmth reserved for him. He looked me over, not in a hungry way, but in a searching one. You look really good. Thank you. A silence opened between us. Once I would have rushed to fill it, to make him comfortable, to protect us both from awkwardness. Now I let it breathe. Can we talk for a minute? He asked. Please. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Therapy, actually. He said therapy like a credential, like a stamped receipt proving work had been done. I glanced toward Mara. She was watching from across the room with the intense focus of a woman deciding whether she needed to cross a gallery and commit a felony. I gave her the smallest shake of my head. Sure, I said. Evan inhaled shakily. I was an idiot. What I asked for was monstrous. I know that now. I was scared and insecure, and I externalized it in the worst possible way. I treated you like an option, and you were never that. You were my choice. I just didn't know how to know it. The words were polished, maybe honest, maybe rehearsed, maybe both. There was a time I would have sold pieces of myself to hear them. Now they landed gently, like rain on glass. It's okay, I said. You don't need to explain. His face brightened with fragile hope. He mistook my lack of anger for an opening. So you forgive me? I looked at him for a long moment. There's nothing to forgive, Evan. His hope expanded too quickly. Your request was a gift, I continued. The clearest thing you ever gave me. It showed me exactly what our marriage would have been. A perpetual audition. I wasn't being asked to be your wife. I was being asked to remain available while you tested whether someone better existed. His smile died. That's not fair, he whispered. No, I said. It wasn't. He swallowed hard. But I know now, I'm sure. I'm more certain than I've ever been. You're the one, Janine. I nodded, accepting it as information. I believe you. His eyes filled. And it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter, I said. Evan stared at me like the sentence had not entered his body yet. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. Around us, the gallery kept breathing. People murmured about brushwork. Someone laughed near the wine table. A woman in red heels complimented Daniel's vase. The world continued in its quiet, ordinary way, which somehow made Evan's collapse feel smaller. Not less painful for him, maybe, but less powerful over me. What do you mean it doesn't matter? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Janine, I'm telling you, I know now. I chose you. The old me might have broken at that. The old me might have heard, I chose you, and mistaken it for the ending I had wanted. But months of silence had taught me to hear the word behind the word. Chose. As if I had remained on a shelf, waiting for him to finish comparing labels. As if my life had been paused by his uncertainty and could resume the second he returned with approval. You chose me after testing the idea of losing me, I said. That is not the same as commitment. His face tightened. I was confused. You were entitled. He flinched. I did not say it cruelly. That was what made it land. There was no fire in me anymore, no need to punish him with volume. I was simply naming the shape of what he had done. You asked me to stand still while you went out looking for someone better. You called it certainty because that sounded noble. But it was comparison. It was a trial period, and I was supposed to be grateful if I won. His eyes filled, and for a moment I saw the man from the pier again, the man with lake light on his face, laughing through tears, saying yes to forever. It hurt, but only faintly now, like touching a bruise that had almost healed. "I hate myself for it," he said. "I hope that changes," I replied. "Not because I need you to feel better, but because shame is useless unless it teaches you something." He gave a broken little laugh. "You sound so calm." "I am calm. That's the part I don't understand." I looked past him to Mara, who was still watching me with protective fury wrapped in a black dress, and Daniel beside her, pretending to examine his own ceramic piece while clearly listening with both ears. I thought of my studio, my orchid, the river trail, my promotion, the meals I cooked too spicy for Evan's taste. I thought of the silence that had once terrified me, and now held me up. "I had to become calm," I said. "You left me no other safe place to live." He swallowed. "Can we start over? Not the wedding right away, I know that would be too much. But coffee, dinner, anything. I'll wait this time. I'll prove myself." There it was, the final offer, the reverse audition. Now he wanted to perform. Now he wanted me to sit in judgment while he tried to earn back what he had treated like a conditional prize. I shook my head. "No." "Janine." "No," I said again gently. "I'm not interested in becoming the judge in the same game that hurt me. I don't want to test you. I don't want to monitor your growth. I don't want to wonder whether your certainty expires the next time life feels ordinary." His shoulders sagged. "The wedding ending was not the tragedy," I continued. "The tragedy would have been marrying you before you said the quiet part out loud." A tear slipped down his cheek. He looked embarrassed by it, which was the most honest thing about him in that moment. "I loved you," he whispered. "I loved you too," I said. "That's why leaving hurt. But love is not enough when respect is negotiable." For the first time, he stopped trying to speak. I offered him a small, final smile. Not warm enough to invite him back. Not cold enough to wound. Just human. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Evan. Truly. But I hope you stop looking for it by making someone else audition for your certainty." Then I turned and walked back toward Mara and Daniel. Mara's eyes searched my face. "You okay?" I took a slow breath and realized my heart was steady. "Yes." Daniel lifted his plastic cup. "To weird crackers and emotional growth." I laughed, and the sound surprised me with how easy it was. To both. Across the room, Evan remained where I had left him, still holding the certainty he had arrived at too late. I did not hate him. That felt important. Hatred would have meant he still occupied space I needed for myself. Instead, I felt distance. Clean, merciful distance. I looked at Daniel's vase again, twisted and strong, fragile from one side and almost indestructible from another. For the first time, I understood it. Some things survive because they never break. Others survive because they do, and then learn what shape they actually are.